Good evening, welcome to Thursday's Midlands Today from the BBC. Tonight, warnings of a new debt crisis as more and more say they can't afford basic living costs, let alone pay off existing debt.
The Consumer Credit Counselling Service says people seeking their help across our region are on average £17,000 in debt to credit cards and personal loans.
In the Black Country, the area's food bank has had to give food parcels to 6,500 people. That's up nearly 50% on the last 12 months.
Our reporter Joan Cummins has spent the day in Sandwell, one of our most deprived areas, talking to people battling to cope with debt and the rising cost of living.
Across the country, more than 1 million people last year took out payday loans, often at extortionate rates of interest, simply to pay their rent. Here in Sandwell, one charity says that the rates of debt have increased from 20 million a few years ago to £45 million in the borough alone.
If people's income hasn't gone up over the last few years, and you've had rent increases, you've had increase in fuel bills, there's going to come a point in time where you're not going to be able to manage and start struggling.
Denise Vale is typical of people who have turned to moneylenders for help. She borrowed £100 for school uniforms, but ended up paying back more than double that.
Kids can do without, but sometimes you want the kids to have more than what you had. I mean, my kids, I like them to have lots of things, and if I can get the money for it, then I'll get the money for it.
Balloons and smiles for another finance company opening its doors in West Bromwich. But this non-profit-making, charity-backed firm say they're providing a reasonable service to people in need.
People that come through our doors have been chewed up and spat out by a capitalist system that doesn't always favour the least wealthy. This is part of a charitable mission to serve people that are not served by the mainstream financial services industry, and it's all about displacing the predatory lenders that you can see all over the high streets.
A single mum, Maya Palmer, admits she's turned to affordable lenders on occasions and says no one wants to endure the stigma of debt.
I wouldn't sort of judge somebody for borrowing money. Sometimes things you wouldn't have done in the past, sort of you go out there and consider taking a loan or borrowing money. As times get on and maybe time you fall on hard times, people do. You do have to consider these things.
Legally, moneylenders can charge whatever interest rates they like. But debt professionals say if you're worried about paying your bills, seek advice before taking out more loans to clear existing debts. Joan Cummins, BBC Midlands Today.
And if you're worried about debt, you'll find lots of help and advice on the Midlands Today Facebook page, and you can take the BBC's debt test too.
Well, thanks for your company here on Midlands.